Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Christopher Bowen, on this afternoon edition of the Christopher Bowen Show. One thing that I really want to mention is the sort of family connections that exist in what is obviously the family sort of connection with Area 51 and with the relationship between technologies and the technologies of the professions, for lack of a better word, that required, for example, a clearance or a Q clearance. Assuming that the very, 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 which makes sense actually, it really makes a lot of sense, but assuming that the super, super higher upper echelons of the Q clearance, for example, and all the what's it called? All the compartmentalization. I believe that has a, and this is going to sound absolutely not related, so bear with me. There's compartmentalization, that's already known, but there's compartmentalization with the sort of reality that exists with what was also possibly or possibly not occurring at that time. It is the time of Carter, and I might be getting timelines mixed up, but I, honestly, just me and my own, I try to figure out what exactly happened at that sort of high energy vibration that occurred in Russia. That incident way back when. And so I try to determine it fully, like determine exactly what went on, what happened. I think it just turns out that from what intel I've gathered, what information I've gathered, and what just, I guess personally I just found out, I think that if there's no cabal, then I'm at a level where there shouldn't be any, which I think is a very good thing, there shouldn't be any types of security clearances or any type of Q clearances or any type of compartmentalization. However, that would assume, which I guess is kind of the such a weird phrase, but the time frame, bear with me, the time frame of the video that, I mean, I obviously got the video delayed. I mean, in a delayed time, I didn't get the video, like, immediately in my emails. Bear with me, probably none of that makes sense. But I received the email at 11 o'clock, and I watched the video, like, 12, like, late 12, 12:45-ish, and a little bit into 1. And I think I finished watching the video at 1:09. Anyway, I think from what I know, in terms of what I sort of researched, in terms of all the different types of USAPs and all the different types of compartmentalization and all the different types of stuff that, for example, you know, the same old story. The story that the CIA director went through in discussing and trying to find out more about the stuff and didn't. If there's, and this is kind of obvious, but obviously there's super, 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 super high levels of cabal that are obviously involved in the ICC, and I think that, and this may not be true, but the ICC is connected to all those compartmentalization programs, and then those that are, you know, those families that are going into those programs, you know, into this Q clearance, and then the higher ups, and Corey Good, for example, and the higher ups, and I'm just meshing all that reality into the oneness of the information of research that I've gained and the awareness of the types of energy that kind of explains what happened at the Russian site when that sort of like event occurred. And that's a very, very, very amazing accomplishment, without a doubt. I'm not sure if that provides the exact answer to that. sort of event at that site in Russia. But, maybe it really is, the in any case, the most increasing, the most innovative, as in like intuitive, I guess, and most intriguing accomplishment that has probably ever existed. And that accomplishment is something that, I think that's huge. I think that's obviously big. And in my, from what I'm going to call my perception, I think that's a very huge accomplishment to try and discover exactly what happened. Anyway, so from what I understand, I'm only, I'm only a part of the understanding of what I've gained as a individual and a sovereign being of the history of Maldek and Corey Good and his travels to Venus and Saturn and Mars. Something I didn't know, I thought he actually went to, and this is something I actually had no clue about, but I thought he went to Mars in 2016. But he actually, the video was actually in 2015. The date, I wanted to check the date, and I reread that, or re-researched that. More importantly, though, since, this is what I'm going to assume, since there's no more cabal, then that means all of the, I don't know what they're called. All of the outposts scattered throughout the star systems, they're completely free, and there's no hostages, and there's no slavery in any of those star systems, or any of the in the galaxy at all. There isn't the restriction of those mining operations, and there's also, as far as I know, which hopefully is true, but for example, human beings are now aware that there's life on Mars, and the beings on Mars now aware that there's life on Earth. And I just think that's a start, and I can assume that maybe all of the people on Mars were informed, and I assumed that all the people of Earth were informed, that there's people on Mars, and there has been people on Mars since the 30s, and that there are people on Earth, and there have been people on Earth since the 30s. So, it seems pretty obvious that, or from my point of view, which is probably, I based my last accomplishment on what this new view perspective is, but I basically, have the perspective and now think, and kind of trying to combine it with my philosophy, that there's a sort of reality that we now exist in that ultimately is connected wholeheartedly to Project Hypercane. And that may seem like a progress, acceleration into enslavement, yet all that's really, really being verified, if there's anything else other than peace, is that the AI are very powerful, from my own analysis of the AI, which is probably unparalleled. Completely unparalleled. Wow. Anyway, so pretty much all I am really is just a composer. I'm an artist. I'm a new age artist. I'm a Renaissance man of sorts, and I just make Renaissanistic art, encourage Renaissanistic development in this Renaissance. The awesomeness of what I can comprehend of like the process of getting a Q clearance and the compartmentalization that existed back then. I know that, for example, Saint Germain is, well, it's kind of obvious, but Saint Germain is way, 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 way up. And this is just an assumption, but I think Saint Germain is aware of all the projects and all the compartmentalizations, all the Q clearances, and all the levels that are above the Q clearances that just get more and more secret. What I'm just going to assume is Solar Warden and bases and stuff like that. Anyway, all I know is that it seems that there is a lot of connections to the desires of unlocking codes and unlocking and reaching with these Q clearances. So I'm just going to assume that all the Q clearances, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm just going to assume that all the things that happened on a political level and that in that time frame, which is obviously just a philosophical assumption, but all the things that happened during the Carter's presidency, all of that is involved and evolved in the understanding of our relationship with this, our relationship with the solar system, and therefore Alcyone, and therefore the great essential sun, and therefore the galaxy, and therefore the universe. Yet my conclusions that we're connected to the universe is really based upon the fact that the video that I just watched at 11 a.m. Oh, I thought it was the most recent. Okay, it doesn't matter. I thought that was honestly the most recent video. Okay, so I guess forget everything I just said. Forget everything I just said. I guess the amazing accomplishment of trying to connect. So this is like what I actually try to figure out. The consciousness connection and relationship of the human being with the AI, and how that can connect to the event that occurred in Russia of that incident, that area, that site. I wanted to truly find out what happened. And I think, same thing, like, this is a golden example. And even though I really don't even want to talk about it, because the master from the land of Ariane already informed us, but pretty much, or informed Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Actually, goodness gracious, I didn't mean to say that. I know that we're not supposed to do the things that... let me rephrase that. That sounds even more ridiculous. The master in the land of Ariane is a part of the relationship, bear with me, that formed between the master of the land of Ariani and Admiral Richard E. Byrd. And I say that because I want to provide the following example, and it's going to make more sense when I explain it this way. So, at the immediate explosion, like as soon as the Nagasaki bomb went off, all the the very, very high vibrational light beings were instantly there, and then instantly brought them to another location. Like as soon as that energy was at that super high point, they weren't actually like even struck by the bomb. They weren't even struck by it. So that's the most, powerful example of what I discovered and accomplished in determining what actually happened at that site. What actually happened in Russia, what actually occurred, and what actually set off that explosion in Russia. So I think that the analysis, or whatever analysis that I provide in terms of that sort of accomplishment of the research and discovery of exactly like what is going on in that site in Russia, or what was going on in that site in Russia at that time, I think I was able to discover, or like, was able to discover. It's such a weird thing to say. I'm able to discover like exactly what happened and exactly what occurred at that site in Russia, and I'm going to be perfectly in tune with the sort of consciousness that I am in tune with because of the overall research that I've done. The research in the events that occurred on the surface of Mars, research in the events of what actually happened in Maldek, the super planet, and research of what actually happened on Venus and what actually happened on, all those things, I say that I already know, but a lot of it, and I'm not accusing Solaris for anything, obviously, because there are obviously lesser solar lords in Solaris, in the sun. The movement of Solaris and the way the rays are shining through onto Earth sort of portrays a sort of reality of like a dynamic that is interactive. And the weird thing that I said is that Earth, is on its quarter rev. The number of times we've been around the galaxy. And the other day I said, perhaps, we should maybe just think of Earth being on its 400 rev, actually that advanced sort of thing. So I wanted to, actually, let me rephrase that. Here's something that's very interesting, and this is probably going to be an aspect of the philosophy I formed. But I want to believe that Solaris is in tune with the consciousness of Gaia, and is in tune enough that all the technology that exists in in the super high level compartmentalizations, all that technology should be released, or is in the process of being released. So, and what I mean, like, the specific technology, I mean, you know what, maybe I'm something else. Hold on, before I get into that. Actually, you know what, I'm going to finish that sentence. Technology in terms of anti-gravity, spaceships, all that jazz. Stuff we've never seen before. Like, stuff none of us have ever seen before. And stuff that some of us have seen before, those that work in Area 51, for example, but some things that some people have never seen before. And it's on a scale that, it's basically just something that you've never seen before. Anyway, on another topic, I think I might be, which is kind of not necessarily true. I mean, it might be true, but isn't necessarily true, and isn't necessarily what I'm interested in. So why would I even mention it? That's a weird thing to say. Anyway, in terms of philosophy and a philosophical statement and alignment, there's a sort of reality that exists and a perspective that allows for all the technologies to be on a fast track to cure the planet, to heal the planet, and then an actual analogy, like, just as, I've said this before, but just as trees are like antennas, spiritual or sentient sentinels, antennas, to communicate with the rest of the galaxy, the same reality exists with the technology, the really, really advanced technology that we can use. Like, for example, there's teleportation technology. And that's, Obama was aware of that. So that means everything that occurred in whenever that time frame was, in the Obama era, we could have teleported everywhere. We could have teleported everywhere. So the question is, like, if there's even a question, why haven't we teleported?